Hello.
It's Crime with Steph.
And Katie.
Welcome to episode 4.
It is serial killers and their deaths.
That's how they died. I will be starting off this episode today.
Yes, she will. That's Steph, by the way.
That's me. So, when I was doing some research.
Not we. I wasn't doing research
we
with you.
research privately, you know.
So it's a surprise.
I found a lot about, they were obviously executed or they committed suicide, sentenced to life in prison, died from natural causes, or shot by policemen. And I was like, they're boring.
Well, that's basically what I got.
Whoops. So I tried to find 3 that I thought were a bit more unique. So we're going to start with an Iranian serial killer, Mohammed, last name. He confessed in court to raping and killing 16 young boys within 2004 and was sentenced to 100 lashes followed by execution.
Youch.
In front of a crowd of about 5,000 people, Muhammad was handcuffed to an iron post where he received his lashings. He fell to the ground more than once. A relative of one of the victims managed to get past security and stab Muhammad. The mother of one of the victims put a blue nylon rope around his neck and he was hoisted about 10 meters into the air by a crane until he died.
Ooh.
Yeah, how about that one, hey?
Remind me to never commit anything in Iran.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that sounds rough.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That is, it had to happen in Iran, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. I have a lot of questions about that one still.
Jesus.
Alright, my next one is about a Romanian man, Vasil, last name, who was lured victims and then murdered them with an axe. And the primary motive was actually robbery. And in 1935, a dog found 6 bodies under his house.
Jesus.
And he'd already been in prison for robbery and burglary charges. He confessed to having committed at least 26 murders. He was shot dead by a policeman while trying to escape during a reconstruction of one of his crimes.
That's kind of cool.
Different,
yeah,
hey?
That's
Yeah.
cool.
I do hear about, they
reconstructing the
yeah.
crime and then, see ya, I'm out.
You'd assume it'd be a more trusted criminal in a way. You know what I mean? But
Not one that's a robbery thief. What does he have to lose?
Is he trustworthy? Ooh, I don't know.
Okay.
Alright, one more, guys. Jose Antonio Rodriguez.
Oh, we got the last name on that one.
Yeah, I know, right? I felt a bit more confident about that one. He raped and killed at least 16 elderly women in Spain.
Ooh.
He went unrecognized for over a year because he moved his victims into their beds after they were killed. And no autopsies were made, and the deaths were attributed to natural causes.
Oh, because they were older women.
Then in 2002, Rodriguez was walking in the prison common grounds when 2 inmates attacked. Sorry, obviously he was charged and he was, I don't know, I've skipped something, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, so just jump ahead. He's in prison, he's crimes. And, 2 inmates attacked and brutally stabbed him, inflicting fatal wounds. And Rodriguez was buried in a coffin, and only 2 grave diggers attended his burial.
Oh my gosh.
Who's going to attend the burial of a naughty man?
Not me.
No. Well, I hope you enjoyed my stories.
Okay. Well, I've got 2, but just because they're quite long and I want to let everyone know what crimes he committed or they committed. Mind the dog barking in the background. If you do hear that, we're sorry. We cannot control dogs barking.
Well, we may edit it. We'll see what happens.
So my first person that I have found, his name is Richard Trenton Chase. He's from Sacramento, California. He went on a murder spree on December 29th, 1977 and killed his first known victim in a drive-by shooting. The victim was a 51-year-old. He then attempted to enter the home of a woman 2 weeks later, but because her doors were locked, he walked away. Chase later told detectives that he took locked doors as a sign that he was not welcome. But unlocked doors were an invitation to come inside. That's why you keep your doors locked, people. He was once caught and chased off by a couple returning home, and he had urinated and defecated in their infant child's bed and clothing. So not a very nice person. He also shot another woman and then entered a home of a 38-year-old who he shot with his 22 millimeter handgun, I guess is how you say it. We don't really have guns in Australia. A visitor knocked on the door and startled him, and he fled in her car. In his car. In 1979, Chase...
He could have stolen her car.
Well, could have stolen either car, really. Yeah. Chase stood trial on 6 counts of murder to avoid the death penalty. The defense tried to have him found guilty of second-degree murder, which would result in a life sentence because of a history of mental illness, and that the crimes were not premeditated. The jury found Chase guilty of 6 counts of first-degree murder and rejected the argument that he was guilty by reason of insanity, and sentenced him to die in the gas chamber. His death was found. He was found in his cell, and an autopsy was done, and it was found that he committed suicide with an overdose of prescribed antidepressants that he had saved over several weeks.
Hold on now, I need to go back to the gas chamber bit. What? Is this like a way that Americans kill each other in...
It was, I'm guessing, in the 70s.
They used gas chambers?
Gas chambers.
I've always heard of like electric
I know they
shock.
got electrocuted.
Yeah.
And I know now it's lethal injection.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Sacramento it must have been a gas chamber.
That just seems Nazi vibes.
Yeah, definitely.
I can see something coming up that says Nazi.
Yeah, this is why he committed suicide. He granted a series of interviews during which he spoke of his fears of Nazis and UFOs, claiming that although he had killed, it was not his fault. He had been forced to keep himself alive, which he believed any person would do. He asked Ressler to give him access to a radar gun with which he could apprehend the Nazi UFOs so that the Nazis could stand trial for the murders. He also handed Ressler a large amount of macaroni and cheese, which he had been hoarding in his pants pockets, believing that the prison officials were in league with the Nazis and attempting to kill him with poisoned food.
Good choice, though, macaroni and cheese.
He has hypochondria, so I can understand why he was a bit psycho.
So, did he have like a history of being in asylums or anything then, with the whole mental thing? Had he ever been...
He was institutionalized involuntarily. He was taken to a hospital after injecting rabbit's blood into his veins.
Oof.
Kind of weird.
That seems dangerous.
He broke the necks of 2 birds he caught through the institution window and drank their blood. And he also extracted blood from therapy dogs with stolen syringes.
It's blood fame. Is he trying to be a vampire?
Well, his nickname was Dracula because of his blood fixation.
How about that?
He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and then he underwent a battery of treatments involving drugs, like the psychotropic drugs, and then he was deemed no longer a danger to society. And then his mother weaned him off the medication and got him his own apartment, and then left him on his own. And then he was stopped and arrested. His body was smeared with blood, and a bucket of blood was found in his truck, and the blood was determined to be cow's blood. Kind of a bit psychotic, a little bit.
I feel a mix of emotions right now.
Like, I know he was not mentally there.
Yeah, clearly.
It's very funny that they found him guilty of the murder, even though he had a history of mental illness. Like, I would have thought he would have been deemed unfit to stand trial.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was not guilty. They rejected the argument that he was not guilty by reason of insanity.
No way. He appeared on a CSI episode? Like, they used his story.
Yeah, they were based on Chase's crimes.
Yeah, that's kind of cool that CSI is actually using real things in a way.
He was in a video game. His identity can be found in Deadlight.
What?
Yeah, kind of cool.
Deadlight, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was a very, very strange man. My next man is John Wayne Glover. He's from the United Kingdom. He was born in, but he did move over to Australia.
Uh-oh.
Yes, it's a owl.
It's a country. Local, is it? Yeah. What state was he?
New South Wales.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So, John Wayne Glover. No proof was found of Glover killing before 1989. At this stage, he had been married for 20 years with children, and his wife had no knowledge of his previous offences. Glover committed killings when confronted with the police evidence. He denied responsibility for other crimes for which he was a suspect, not a subject. Oh my gosh. On 11th of January 1989, 84 Margaret Todd Hunter was walking down a road when she was seen by Glover. After parking his car, he walked up to the victim and punched her in the face and stole the contents of her purse, including a whole $209. Wow. On the 1st of March, Glover was leaving an RSL and saw an 82-year-old Gwendolyn Mitchell Hill walking down the street. Glover returned to his car, put a hammer under his belt, followed Mitchell Hill to the entry foyer of her apartment building and hit her with the hammer in the back of her head and got a whole $100.
You know, him exiting the RSL, I feel like he put like $100 on the pokies and he lost it all, and now he's like...
I need $100 back. I'm going to murder someone for it.
But I don't like the hammer part.
No. On 9th of May 1989, Glover was walking along a military road when he saw an 84-year-old walking towards him. Glover put on a pair of gloves, followed her into the foyer of her apartment where he attacked her with his hammer. He then threw her to the ground, dragged her into a rubbish bin alcove where he repeatedly hit her head on the pavement. Glover recalled that she had almost overpowered him until he fell on top of her and started to hit her head on the pavement. After she was knocked unconscious, John removed her pantyhose and strangled her. He then left with her purse containing $100 and headed for Mosman RSL.
Oh, I was just about to say, like, so far he's not killing them, but no, I've just been corrected.
Yeah, he actually made a comment to the staff at the RSL saying he hoped the sirens outside were not because of another mugging gone wrong.
Okay.
He also put his hand under a 77-year-old's nightgown, but the 77-year-old couldn't remember what the man looked like. On the 24th of June, he lifted the dress of an elderly patient and fondled her buttocks. In a neighbouring room, he slid his hand down the front of another patient's nightdress and stroked her breast. The woman cried out for help. On 8th of August, Glover assaulted an elderly woman in a back of a street on Sydney's North Shore. He pretended to be a doctor and ran his hand up the dress of Phyllis McNeil. He then left, and he was never suspected or identified as being responsible for the molestations. He then followed 86-year-old widow Doris Cox to her retirement village. In a secluded stairwell at the front of the house, he attacked her, ramming her face into a brick wall where she fell. Although she survived the assault, she was not able to provide a clear description of recollection of events, probably due to her dementia. He then met another woman named Dorothy, I'm not even going to pronounce that name, and offered to carry her groceries home for her. The woman invited him inside for a cup of tea. Glover declined the tea, but on the return down the laneway to the main street, he passed another old woman and assaulted her from behind. This victim was known as 85-year-old widow Margaret Pahood, and the police were certain this was the work of the Granny Killer. That's what his nickname was. Within 24 hours of the Pahood murder, Olive Cleveland became the fourth woman killed by the now so-called Granny Killer. Glover struck up a conversation with Cleveland while she was sitting on a bench just outside where she lived in the suburb of Belrose. Ollie became uncomfortable, got up, and proceeded to walk to the main building. Glover seized her from behind and forced her down a ramp into a secluded side lane where he hit her and repeatedly pushed her head into the concrete before he removed her pantyhose and tied it around her neck. Glover rearranged her clothing, shoes, and walking stick and then left, taking her $60 from her handbag. And his last victim was on the 23rd of November 1989 in Buena Vista Hotel in Middle Head Road. He saw 93-year-old widow Muriel Falconer walking opposite the hotel. Glover returned to his car, retrieved his hammer and gloves, and followed her to the exterior of her home in Mustang Street, hitting her in the neck, around the head and the neck with his hammer. He then left with a whole $100, and the reward was increased to $250,000. And then he was obviously trialed and imprisoned, where he was held in a maximum security prison cell. In May 2005, Glover collapsed in his cell and was placed on suicide watch after telling prison officers, "I've had enough, I want to kill myself." He was examined by a mental health review team and monitored by closed-circuit television. He was also given medical examinations as a follow-up to the 2 cancer surgeries he had undergone the year prior. On the 10th of September, Glover was found dead in his Lithgow maximum security prison cell, pronounced dead at 1:25 p.m. The 72-year-old serial killer was confirmed to have hung himself.
You know, like, at first I was thinking, like, I gotta check on my nan. Like, when I was like, the time zone that's in, like, 80s, mostly 80s, actually. Just, like, thank God we're not in that time anymore. Like,
I know. Everyone was so trusting back then, too. Like, yes, help me carry my groceries. Come inside my house. Have some tea. Like, I would never invite some random person into my house these days for tea. No. Like, it's so funny because, like, even though this stuff happened back in the day, we didn't have social media to be like, oh, this has happened, beware. Whereas now we have, oh, this has happened, beware. And true, it makes you untrusting. Like, it makes you go, well, why am I going to trust this random person that has proven nothing to me? We're more vigilant. We're more careful. We're more like, are our doors locked? Like, back in the day, they used to have their doors unlocked and just head down the shop. Like, in today's society, you wouldn't do that.
Never.
You wouldn't leave your cars unlocked or your windows down. People do that. Used to do that these days.
But on the social media point, like, they have television, radio, newspaper. They heavily relied on that.
But it took a while for them to gather information and put it out there. Like, if someone was to, I don't know, rob your house right now, it would be on Facebook within an hour.
True, because they actually, needed true facts before speculation.
Where people can just go on Facebook and be like, this has happened at this area. Like, you'd still go to the police. You'd still have a news report most likely come out about it. But you can just go onto Facebook and be like, beware, this happened in my area. Like, I've had so many people go, oh, watch out for this area. People have been breaking into cars. And then that's like, oh, I better make sure my car's locked. I mean, I lock it anyway, but now I'm more vigilant to make sure my car's locked in that area.
It's a cross of, like, spreading fear, but also, like, warning people.
In a way, like social media is a bit fear-mongering in a way because information spreads so quickly and so rapidly, and some of the facts aren't checked. So you don't know if everything you're finding out is true. But it's also spreading awareness because even though some of the facts may not be true, there's also an element of truth to the story. So at least you know, okay, well, some of this or part of this has happened in this area, beware. Or if there's, like, police running up a street or helicopters, like, you find out updates on, you know, should we stay inside? Should we go out? Like, should we leave? Are we in danger? Is someone breaking into houses and murdering people? Like, are we safe? Like, at least now you know, like, police update you on social media and be like, stay indoors or do this.
Exactly.
So it's nice to have that element of safety, even though we are a bit more careful and I like to say paranoid. We, pay attention to everything a bit more than is necessary, I think. But in doing that, at least we're safe.
Yeah, and criminals are just finding another way to be a criminal if you've got a security system.
Everybody's going to be criminals. I think they target houses that may not necessarily have a security system or cameras. So many people are installing cameras in their house because they want to protect their things or catch people who have stolen their things.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, I completely agree with it. Like, why should we have to advertise that we have cameras on our houses? We shouldn't. Like, if people are going to break in, like, that's on them. Like, it's kind of like an element of, it's not the homeowner's decision to make sure people don't break into their house. It's the people breaking into their house's decision to go, I'm not going to break into that today.
100%. Homeowners got enough to do with, like, everything. They don't need that
They
worry.
don't need the, are we going to get broken into today? Let's make sure our house is perfect. Like, I don't think we should have to worry about if our doors are locked and stuff like that. Like, if we have a security system in place, then, like, that's on us. And
yeah, hopefully they just live in a good neighborhood.
that's hoping.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And, yeah, some interesting ways serial killers have died.
Yes, a lot of killing themselves because apparently they're too...
The guilt.
They're so guilty. I don't think they're guilty.
No.
I think it's more the fact of they don't want to spend their whole life in prison for the last one, and he didn't want to die by Nazis for the first one.
Yeah, that one was...
Because, like, gas chamber, as you said, it's an element of Nazis. Maybe he was thinking, the Nazis are going to kill me, and he would prefer to take his own life than have Nazis murder him.
That was quite the story, that one.
Anyway, make sure to like and subscribe, and if you haven't yet, check out our Facebook page. It's Crime with Steph and Katie. And basically just make sure you're subscribed because we have been getting a fair few views, but some of them aren't subscribed to us. So we want to make sure that you guys are subscribing. Leave a comment down below on our Facebook page if there's anything you want us to cover and any feedback.
Excellent. We'll see you in episode 5.
Bye, guys.
Bye.